If you're just getting into wood turning, stop! Don't touch that lathe just yet. These are mistakes I made in my first few weeks, every single one avoidable. If I only had known what I'm about to show you. This should have been a beautiful bowl. Instead, it's a reminder of what I wish I knew before I ever flipped that switch. In this video, I'll walk you through 5 crucial things every new wood turner needs to hear before their first spin. Lessons that can save you tools, time, and a ton of frustration. Let's make sure your first project isn't your last. Sharpening is just as important as wood turning. Having an effective sharpening system like the grinder setup I have here is vital to your success, especially when you're starting your wood turning journey. Turning with sharp tools eliminates a lot of the frustration, especially when we're just learning how to use the tools to begin with. If you want to see more information about my sharpening system, you can see it linked above or in the video linked in the description below. Welcome to Turning Stitches. I'm Sean. We help wood turners learn the craft to begin making fun projects faster. Let's talk wood turning tools. I want to save you some time and money by avoiding some of the mistakes that I made when I first started wood turning. The first thing to avoid is buying the Woodturning tool set, the whole pack with multiple tools in it. You can find them online pretty easily, and oftentimes they're not very expensive. It looks very attractive, but I would skip that entirely. I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, okay, Sean, well, how do I start? What tools do I start with if I don't buy the kit? My suggestion is to buy high quality tools from the get-go for the projects that you are wanting to turn. There is a huge difference between the quality of steel. So for example, this rough and gouge that I have here is really the only tool out of that starter kit that I still use today. Once I bought higher quality tools, they hold their edge longer, they sharpen better, and they just perform much better. And surprisingly, you can really tell the difference. So my suggestion is start with quality. What would I get started with if I'm not buying the kit? What quality tools would I buy? Well, I would start off with a parting tool. You're probably always going to need a parting tool of some sort. A rough and gouge. As I mentioned, this rough and gouge is out of that inexpensive kit that I first bought. It's the only tool I still really use. A spindle gouge. You'll probably want a spindle gouge of some kind. If you're going to be doing bowls and faceplate turning, you'll also want a bowl gouge of some type. And then you'll probably also want to start out with a scraper of some sort. So this scraper is also out of that kit. I never use it. But instead of, if you know you're wanting to use carbide tools like this one that I've got here, you can skip this tool entirely. And this kind of illustrates my point. These tools do similar functions. This one is a carbide cutter and this is a scraper. We can easily resharpen this at our grinder. And this one, we can refresh the heads a little bit, but generally you're going to end up replacing these cutter heads on these carbide tools. But if you know you're wanting to use carbide tools, then I would just skip this tool, save your money, skip that tool altogether. This tool can do largely the same thing. It's important to keep in mind when we buy a new tool, it rarely has the profile that we're wanting straight from the factory. That's another reason why it's important to get good at sharpening so that we can modify and shape our tools the way we want for the jobs we're doing. If you want to see how I took this bowl gouge and created this fingernail grind on it whenever I first bought it, you can check out the video right here and I'll leave it linked in the description below. I'll leave links to all of these tools in the description below so you can check out this kind of beginner's kit with some high quality tool options. We have finally made it over to the lathe, but unfortunately it seems like there's an endless list of accessories for our lathe also. I'd put a high priority on the things that help you accomplish the projects you're working on faster and easier. The one thing that I would start with just generally is probably a scroll chuck. So with a scroll chuck, that allows us to do a lot of different faceplate work on our lathe, and we can hold a big variety of different projects with different types of jaws for our scroll chuck. So the scroll chuck itself has a huge range of things that it can help us accomplish. Just like with our turning tools, I'd recommend buying a high quality chuck that has a variety of different jaws that will work with it, so you can keep expanding and changing and really make this tool much more versatile. I've been using this Supernova chuck for a long time. I've got a whole collection
of different jaws for it. It works great. I'll put links for those items down in the description below just to help you with some research and give you some ideas. The accessory I use the most, other than the scroll chuck, is a drill chuck. So I use this in my tailstock for a lot of different drilling operations. You can use a large Forstner bit like this one here, small bits, all kinds of different drilling operations you can use with a drill chuck here in the tailstock. Then there are simple things like different shapes or different sizes of tool rest. Now, while I use the one that came with my lathe the most, it is great to have some options. This is one I use sometimes with bowls. And what I like most about this one is I can actually change this pretty quickly and easily. It just screws on. So this short bar can screw right on here, and this is just a nice flexible addition if you need a different size tool rest than maybe the one that came with your machine. Another accessory that I added to the machine was this live center with interchangeable points. So I've got this point here that allows me to spread, to hold a piece, but kind of distribute the pressure from the live center. And I can change it to a larger cone. I can also use a sharp point. All of these different things just help you work down here at the tailstock, depending on the workpiece that you're working on. And then if you're doing pins and other small parts like that, there's a whole set of accessories specific to pin turning. And if you're working on large vases and other vessels like that, there's all kinds of different tools and accessories for hollowing. Let's talk a little bit about the budget and costs of wood turning. I'm sure I'm not the only wood turner that's realized after buying all the tools and accessories and all the other gear for wood turning that I ended up spending more on all those items than I did on the lathe itself. So let me give you a few tips that might help ease the budget as you're getting into the hobby. First, I would prioritize the type of projects and the type of work that you're wanting to do. If you're not wanting to turn pins, then you can just totally ignore all that stuff. Same thing with hollowing. If you're not hollowing big vases and vessels and all that stuff, you don't need specialized equipment for those things either. So just keep those things in mind. I would focus and prioritize on the types of projects and the type of work that you're wanting to do, and just add a little bit as you go along. Now, one way that wood turning is different than woodworking or furniture making is in how we use wood. If I'm a traditional woodworker, I'm making furniture, I've invested a lot of capital in some big machinery, a lot of times table saws and band saws and planers, joiners, all kinds of stuff. Even though that takes a lot of capital and a lot of space, I still end up spending far more money on lumber, on wood. When I'm a wood turner, a lot of the wood we use is actually free, like this big chunk of a log or a branch section that I have here. I really don't have anything other than some time in this to just cut it up and get it in a position where I can create some interesting projects out of it. But the wood itself, I'm not out much money on. Likewise, a lot of times I can just use scraps. This is just a cutoff from another project that I had. I can make a pin out of this. I can make a bottle stopper out of this. There's a lot of things I can do with wood turning, literally using scraps. So a lot of times we're not investing a lot of money in wood. Now, every once in a while we'll jump out and we'll go and buy a unique piece of wood or something different like that. But a lot of times the wood we're using is free. While we're talking about budgets and costs of wood turning, especially as we're launching our wood turning journey, I would encourage you to set aside some of that budget for your learning and skill development. Of course, you can learn a lot about wood turning here online on YouTube. My channel is based on that, and I'm so happy you're here. Hopefully you'll subscribe so you can come back and we can continue to build your skills. But there's a lot to be said for in-person learning as much as you can. A couple other really great resources that aren't too expensive. The American Association of Woodturners is a great organization. They've got a great print materials, a couple different magazines, usually on a monthly basis. So much information and inspiration in that organization. Not only does the AAW have the national club, but they also sponsor local clubs. So chances are you can find a club in your area that's associated with the AAW. which is a great learning resource. A lot of times there's experienced woodturners there that are happy to mentor you and help you along the way. It's a great resource to see live demonstrations and just learn from other woodturners. So I'd encourage you to join those two things, the AAW and your local chapter. A lot of times there are local craft guilds that also have woodturning classes. So I would highly recommend engaging in one of those. And if you're just starting your woodturning journey, here's lesson 1 in a 10-part series that I did recently, where we're going to go from basically just a square block all the way up to simple bowls and vases. I'm looking forward to seeing you there.